Today we dive deeper into your childhood, your background, and how that has developed your deep subconscious mind. All of my beautiful lotus flowers, welcome back or welcome to my channel. If you're into nerding out on everything astrology, spirituality, and self-transformation, this is a community for you. Today we're talking all about the Imum Coeli, and again, if I pronounce that wrong, don't come for me. There are so many different ways to pronounce it in different languages, and I don't know which is the standard go-to. I just don't. This is one of the 4 important angles in our birth chart. It's one of the 4 important angles that can tell us different directions in our lives, and they take a deeper dive into who we are. But the Imum Coeli specifically is a deeper dive into how our subconscious has potentially formed, the beliefs that we have gained, the values we have gained in our private life, in our subconscious life, largely due to the way that we were raised in our childhood, the way that we had to grow up and get to this point in our lives. So it's a very interesting concept to explore. And in this video, I'm going to start off by talking about exactly what it is, so you know exactly what I'm talking about through this video. Then I'm going to show you how to locate yours in your own birth chart. So be sure that you have your own birth chart pulled up before watching this video so you can follow along and locate it yourself. And if you don't know where to calculate your birth chart, I will provide a couple links to a couple sites that I trust down below, and that will be easier for beginners like you to follow if you are a beginner. Then we'll talk about ways to better understand your unique IC sign and what to look for in your chart to better understand how your IC sign fits your life uniquely. Then we'll finish the video by giving a super brief summary of each IC sign and what it means if you have that sign or that corresponding planet in your house. And this will all make more sense by the end of the video, hopefully. So be sure to stay tuned for the end to find the summary for your own IC line. First off, what is the IC? The IC line, also known as the Imum Coeli, is the cusp of the 4th house in our birth chart, often seen as the most private point in our chart, as the 4th house governs our private domestic life. Because of this, the IC is used to gain a deeper understanding of our intimate foundation as a person, uncovering the core values we use to build the rest of our life with and how we express ourselves in our private lives because of that. We can also take a deeper look at how we built these core values through our upbringing, since the 4th house heavily explores your intimate relations with family as well. And this is due to the fact that the 4th house is ruled by the moon and the sign Cancer, which is actually the maternal figure of astrology. This is also the point in the chart that is directly opposite the MC or midheaven in astrology, also known as the 10th house cusp, which represents our social status and career path, ruled by the father figure in astrology, Saturn. So it is quite literally the opposite of what our IC line represents. And if you'd like to better understand the midheaven, you can watch the video I just released on it as well. Now let's talk about how to locate your IC line. So the IC lies in the northern hemisphere of the birth chart. Consider the half of the chart that contains the personal houses, houses 1 through 6, because these houses deal more so with our inward private existence and who we are at our core. When you look at your birth chart initially, it's going to look like a pizza or a pie that is separated into slices. And if you look, you can see 2 different lines that go through your pie or your pizza and form 4 separate sections of your birth chart. And each line that separates these 4 sections are the significant 4 angles of our chart that can tell us about different directions of our life. These 4 angles are the ascendant, the descendant, the IC, and the MC. And today we're talking about the IC. If you'd like to know more about the ascendant, aka the cusp of the 1st house, then I do have a video on that. And if you'd like to know more about the descendant, aka the cusp of the 7th house, then I do have a video on that as well. And again, there's also a video on the MC, and those will all be linked on this video for you. But today we're talking again about the IC, which is once again the cusp of the 4th house. So you're going to look for the line of your 4th house, and the cusp of your 4th house is where the 3rd house ends and the 4th house begins. And wherever that line lies in your birth chart, whatever zodiac sign it falls in, is going to be the sign that is on the cusp of your 4th house. And I will have an example up here on the screen showing you where that 4th house is in a birth chart and how to identify which sign that line is in. Just because you located the sign that sits on your IC line does not by any means that you have full comprehension of your IC just yet. Like I always say, astrology is a highly nuanced subject. There's a lot of gray area to explore, and just because you share the same IC line as somebody else does not mean that you are going to be exactly the same as that person. There are many factors that alter our energies in our birth chart. So I'm going to tell you now how to identify the ways in which your IC sign is different from others. So to better understand your unique IC sign, there are 2 big factors that you want to take into account. Number 1, identify any planets that reside in your 4th house. Planets offer us more details on specific placements that they come into contact with. So the specific planets that you have inside your 4th house are what can differentiate your own experience from others who have the same IC sign as you. I use the same example in the midheaven video, but basically the way that you can see the planets is, say that your IC sign is a page of a coloring book, and everybody has the same coloring book with that same IC sign. So say that you're watching this and you have an Aries IC. So you and 12 other people have Aries IC and you have the same page of the coloring book, but all of you fill it in with different colors. You have your own unique way that you express that coloring page. The planets are the colors. They're the individual colors of expression that go into the area of your chart that they're in. So having planets that reside in your 4th house is going to help color in the way that your IC sign is unique compared to other people's. Now, if you have an empty 4th house, this basically just means that there may be a more straightforward expression of your IC sign. You don't really have as many energies pulling it one way or the other. Number 2, identify any planets that are conjunct your IC. Planets that reside in your 4th house are very important, but planets that conjunct your IC line within 1 to 3 degrees are even more important because they are right there in direct contact, basically holding hands with your IC line. And this goes for any planet that forms a 1 to 3 degree conjunction, whether it resides in the 3rd house or the 4th house. Having a planet directly impact your IC can give more insight into your private background, especially what you may have experienced in childhood and or how you view your childhood, since this house deals a lot with our past and how that has impacted us. For example, say you have Aries IC with Neptune conjuncting it. The Aries IC might mean that you value freedom because as a child, you were given a lot of freedom and were able to make your own choices. But because we see that Neptune is also conjunct the IC, this could mean that the reason you had so much freedom is partially because the parents or guardians were not really present, or the relationship wasn't present for some reason, stemming from the fact that Neptune is a planet of illusions. So perhaps there was something hard to grasp about the child's guardians, creating distance between them in some way. If you're enjoying this video so far and feel like you already learned something and you want to see more placement videos from me in the future, give the video a like so I know, subscribe, hit the bell so you don't miss future videos like this one, and leave a comment down below telling me what your IC sign is now that you've hopefully identified it successfully, and tell me what your thoughts are on your IC sign after you finish the video. I love to know who's watching and I love hearing from you guys. And you can also head over to my Patreon so that way you can get in-depth astrological weekly readings from me and other fun astrology content. Now let's talk about your IC sign and 4th house placements. I'm going to give a brief introduction to each IC sign and their corresponding planet and what it means for your life path if you have that specific IC sign or if you have that planet in your 4th house. For example, if you have an Aries IC with Mercury and Venus in your 4th house, you should watch the timestamp for Mars in 4th house /Aries IC, Mercury in 4th house / Virgo or Gemini IC, and the Venus in 4th house / Taurus or Libra IC. If you have Mars in the 4th house or Aries IC, you are probably very independent and value your own freedom, sometimes impulsively choosing to do things your own way despite others and becoming defensive when challenged. As a child, you may have been allowed a lot of freedom or you were forced to become very independent at a young age. Mars being here can indicate that there was potentially a lot of conflict or anger in your childhood, leading to potential temper issues later in life. If you have Venus in your 4th house or Taurus or Libra IC, for Taurus IC, you will definitely place high value on stability in your life. Although you do value stability, there may be a challenge here where you keep things the same or follow set routines for the sake of stability, even though it's not authentic to who you are. As a child, you may have experienced a more conservative household in some way that taught you to stick to the norm or the rules. For Libra IC, you also value stability in the home, but this is heavily born from a desire to have a sense of peace and equilibrium in your life, sometimes putting others' needs before your own in order to maintain this sense of peace. As a child, you may have had to put others before yourself at the sacrifice of your own emotions, causing you to stagnate or conform so you don't stir the pot. Venus being here can indicate that there was a lot of love, warmth, and/or materialistic comforts present in the home, even if your family relations were not ideal. If you have your moon in the 4th house or Cancer IC, Cancer IC might mean that your home and family life play a huge role in your life, offering you a warm, safe space away from the world, probably making you very, very family-oriented, or you have the desire to create a family of your own. The moon here can indicate a lot of warmth and love was present in the home as a child, potentially indicating that your mother played a very big role in your life, whether she was very present or whether she was potentially missing from your life. If you have Sun in the 4th house or Leo IC, you may value having fun in your home life, from being creative or making your space just lighthearted and unique. You tend to shine your brightest in the comfort of your own home, where you feel that you can finally let loose and be yourself. As a child, you may have had to suppress some of your light due to your family or people you lived with making you feel that you were wrong or annoying by being the way that you are, causing a bit of an internal struggle with accepting the real you. The Sun being here can mean that you may have been highly valued by your family in some way, perhaps making great achievements and being placed on a pedestal. If you have Mercury in the 4th house or Gemini or Virgo IC, as a Gemini IC, you probably have a constant curiosity that needs to be fulfilled, causing you to enjoy many different home activities or using a lot of time to study various topics. As a child, you may have experienced a lot of confusion with who you truly are and what you truly want because of this need to explore and learn. It may have been hard to focus and master any one thing in particular. As a Virgo IC, you're naturally intelligent just like Gemini, with a less youthful approach, as you probably harbor responsibility on your shoulders at all times, valuing being seen as reliable and an overachiever of sorts. So as a child, you may have had a lot of pressure placed on you to mature or to take care of things that you shouldn't have been responsible for as a child. Mercury being here can indicate that intellect was highly valued in their home life, perhaps causing them again to feel pressured to study certain things or follow certain paths as they grow up. If you have Pluto in the 4th house or Scorpio IC, there can be a tendency to easily get down on yourself about the hardships of life, especially because you may have faced many of them at a young age, causing you to be quite mature yet emotionally suppressed a lot of the time. As a child, there may have been many traumas present that caused you to mature much quicker than you were ready to, being almost void of a childhood in some cases. Pluto being here may also indicate traumas in the childhood that impacted this individual, giving them a depth and a complexity that people may only see once they become deeply intimate with this person. If you have Jupiter in the 4th house or Sagittarius IC, You're probably quite optimistic and intelligent, always looking forward to the experiences and changes that life can bring. As a child, you probably achieved great things and remained hopeful and optimistic despite experiencing a lot of changes in your childhood. This could have been in the form of moving around, parents getting divorced, so you have to switch between separate households, etc. Jupiter being here can indicate an overall positive childhood with good fortune in their private life. If you have Saturn in the 4th house or Capricorn IC, you're probably extremely independent and hardworking, and you don't like leaning on others for help. As a child, you may have had very strict parents that caused you to become self-reliant, or the guardians just didn't give much warmth and emotion throughout your childhood. Saturn being here can indicate a lack of emotional availability in the childhood overall, being raised in a more uptight, cold environment. If you have Uranus in the 4th house / Aquarius IC, you have a unique way of expressing yourself and doing things that don't really fit in with the norm. As a child, you may have had parents that allowed you to live authentically, or the parents may have made you feel embarrassed about your authentic self because you were odd or different, causing you to grow up with insecurities around this. Uranus here can indicate some type of inconsistency in the childhood, whether one parent was not always present or they experienced a bad divorce, etc. Because Uranus is the odd planet out, this inconsistency could have manifested in many unusual ways in their life. If you have Neptune in the 4th house or Pisces IC, you're probably quite perceptive and emotional at your core, possibly finding it difficult to manage your emotions at times, and there can be a sense of not truly understanding who you really are. As a child, the household may have been quite emotional and unpredictable and hard to understand. There's a strong chance that the child experienced firsthand a family member that struggled with addiction of some sort or perhaps some type of mental trauma. Neptune here can indicate a childhood that was hard for this person to make sense of, and therefore causing them to often grow up confused about themselves as well. I want to conclude this video really quick by saying that I know that the 4th house placement, the IC line, is a bit more of an intense and maybe kind of a sad placement to uncover. It can really kind of probably bring up a lot of suppressed emotions for a lot of you guys because it deals so intimately with your background and your upbringing, which for a lot of us is where most of our traumas are caused that we deal with later on in life. But don't look at it as like a woe is me, my placement is so sad, because a lot of our 4th house placements are meant to shine a light on where we struggled and the root cause of that. Once you know the root cause behind something, once you're able to shine light on the reason you are the way you are or the reason that you do something, then that's when you're able to transform it. If you just walk around life completely clueless, continuing your negative patterns and your bad behaviors that stemmed from childhood, then how are you ever going to fix it? Because you're clueless. So look at it as a positive thing that you're able to now navigate part of your chart that has revealed such deep information to you, deep transformational information. So I just wanted to offer that positive perspective in case any of you were a bit depressed by your IC signs description and started to look at it negatively. So anywho, once again, if you enjoyed this video, feel like you learned anything and you want to see future placement videos from me, give this video a like to let me know, subscribe and hit the bell. You can also head over to my Patreon so you get in-depth astrological weekly readings and other fun astrology content from me, and hop over to the Blue Lotus Facebook community where we talk more about using astrology and spirituality for self-transformation. More personal side of my journey on the internet, you can head to my Instagram at Marisa LaBlue, and until I release a new video, you can watch these ones right here to dive even deeper into your astrological and spiritual journey. But until I see you next time, thank you so much again for watching and for just being here with me. I'll see you in the next video. Adios.